Hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Olivia, and today I'm going to be talking about the Reading Women Challenge. So if you're new to my channel, don't worry because I'm new to my channel too. And I thought that, okay, so really the thing is, I don't follow too many reading challenges because I'm such a mood reader. But one of the ones that I think is actually really good and not just like arbitrary challenges is the Reading Women Challenge. So if you're not familiar with Reading Women, it's originally a podcast and run by Kendra Winchester, who has a booktube channel, but I know primarily from Books to Graham. And the idea behind Reading Women is like reading diversely, you know, that there are diverse experiences as women, and so reading from all kind of viewpoints. And I think an episode is released every 2 weeks, and they're always super high quality and really well thought out and around a different theme. The Reading Women Challenge is a list of 24 prompts that aim to get you reading outside of just like one type of book. So reading diversely. I'm mostly a mood reader, so I haven't been following the challenge this year. And so knowing that it's a good challenge, and something that I'm aware of, like in January at the beginning of the year, that's something that I want to accomplish. I'm now halfway through the year thinking, I wonder how I'm doing towards that challenge that I haven't taken a peek at since January or whenever it was announced. So I printed out the prompts, and out of 24 prompts, I have either read or have a book in progress for 14 of them. That's more than halfway through. For something that I haven't been really aiming to read specifically books for each prompt, like I haven't been planning my reads around that. I've just been mood reading and have incidentally accomplished 14. I think that's pretty good. Like, I don't need to be too stressed out. I think I can accomplish the rest of these. And even the ones that I don't have read or in progress, I've already either put holds on some of them. One of them's like to reread a favorite. So I have a handle on things, I think. But I wanted to go ahead and talk about the 14 books that I have read so far, and then see what y'all think. See if y'all have any recommendations for me for the remaining 10. It's Friday, like my brain's already been used up this week, so no, arithmetic's not at the top of my list right now. And we might have a little bit of mood lighting in here today because it's been storming all week, and so I'm trying to use like the last remainder of the sun before the rain completely darkens out the sky again. So hopefully it doesn't look too bad. Okay, I don't want to spend too long talking about any of these books because I think I'll wrap them up differently later. But okay, so the first prompt that I have completed is a cookbook by a woman of color. Most of my cookbooks are by women of color, but one that I've pulled out for this weekend is Caribbean Vegan by Taymer Mason, and this is the second edition, and it's gorgeous. The colors on the cover design is gorgeous. The inside is gorgeous, and I had pulled this one out because it's Caribbean Heritage Month, and so the hashtag Read Caribbean Month is going on Books to Graham, which is run by Book of Sins. Fabulous. Follow her if you don't. And I've read like 3 Caribbean fiction things this month, but I also wanted to pull this back out and hopefully make a recipe this weekend. So some of the ones that I bookmarked were a Caribbean kale salad, which has like roasted tomatoes and grilled pineapple on it, and like some vegan fish and chips, tofu-fish, so like a tofu jerk fish thing, and then like other fish and chips, and I'll probably make a adult beverage from the back of this too. We'll see. All right, the next one that I've met so far was protagonist older than 50, and for this it was kind of self-essays, but I'm gonna pick Aphrodite by Isabel Allende, and this was a book that she wrote about her own erotic personhood, and also about cultural erotic things, but it's a lot about her, and she was older than 50 whenever it was published. And I think having a woman over 50 write a book about sex is, I think that's going to count for this, because that's something that we don't get a lot of. Fabulous. Liked it. Okay, the next one that I've accomplished was South American author and translation. This year I read Fever Dream by Samanta Schweblin. Last year I read Little Eyes by her as well, and liked that one. Both of these I think were 3-star reads for me, if I'm thinking correctly, but they were both so imaginative and unique that I will probably read everything that she's written, even though so far these were like 3-star executions for me, but really cool premises. So I think that there's eventually going to be one for me. The next one that I have completed was Memoir by an Indigenous Woman. This year I read Dog Flowers by Danielle Geller. I liked this one. I don't often dislike a memoir, because how are you going to judge someone else's life experience? One thing that I loved in this book that I've never seen in a memoir before was that she talked a lot about how much she loves playing video games, or like had a lot of experiences where she was really into video games and met romantic partners through video games. And it was just kind of, it wasn't the premise of the memoir, like that wasn't the focus at all, but I've never just like seen someone incidentally talking about how into video games they were. And if you're new to this channel, which I am too, but I play video games, and I used to play video games much more, and was into World of Warcraft like she was. And I mean, that's where the name of my channel comes from, is Avi was the name of my main character in World of Warcraft, and it's just a name that I've carried on since that time, just because so many people called me that it feels like my name too. The next one that this one I have in progress, About the Natural World, and for this I'm currently reading Fathoms by Rebecca Giggs, and this is an Australian release from last year that was shortlisted for the Stella Prize, which is the Australian Women's Literary Prize. And this is a book about whales. It's a book about whales. That's about the natural world. The next one I'm kind of, hopefully the rain isn't too loud. We'll see how it goes. For this next one, I'm kind of stretching the prompt, I think, a little bit. So it's a young adult novel by a Latina author. I know that these challenges are supposed to get you to read things that you don't normally read, but I just don't really read young adult books. But I really think that this is gonna work. Is Goddess of Filth by V. Castro. This is a horror novel, but it's about young adults, and it doesn't have like the marketing trappings of a young adult novel, but it is like a coming of age, really just told through a horror story, and about going off to college and like a female friend group. I'm counting this. I know that it's not marketed that way, but it is a young adult novel. It's about being a young adult, but just not in high school about love triangles. So there we go. The next one that I've completed is a biracial protagonist. For this one, I've read Octavia the Quadroon by Sidonie de la Houssaye, and she was a Louisiana Creole woman, and this story was originally published in, I'm gonna have to double check. This was first published in 1894. So this is set in New Orleans, and it's about kind of this mythologized quadroon balls, quadroon meaning being of biracial heritage, about this beautiful woman named Octavia, and it's kind of like this really cool revenge story. And if you go into it, you know, knowing that like someone wouldn't write a book like this today, and it's like obviously from 1890, it's really cool. It's definitely a cool revenge story. It's published by Centenary College, which is based in Shreveport, Louisiana. But yeah, this was sent to me by the translator, because it was originally published in French too. So I would recommend this. I don't think this is probably the first time you're ever seeing this book, and it's cool. It's a cool book. Next one I've completed is a queer love story. First of all, this is my queer love story today, this beautiful rainbow garment. But a book that I've read was Pixels of You by Ananth Hirsh and Yuko Oda. And I read this as the NetGalley arc. It's a graphic novel. I think a young adult graphic novel. So it overall didn't meet all the marks for me, but it was pretty cool. And it was a sci-fi queer love story, and it had topics of, you know, are AI really people, like very far in the future, about like these people who, these AI that perfectly simulate humans, like is that really people? It had a little bit of disability rep, if I remember correctly. So if that sounds interesting to you, then I would check it out, but I'm not going to be knocking on any doors trying to get anyone to read it. All right, my next one that I've completed is about a women in politics. And for this, I read Haben this year by Haben Girma, who is a deaf-blind woman who went to law school and now works in disability law. And in here she talks about meeting Obama. I think that this meets for a woman in politics, because this is kind of like the political stuff that I admire, whereas like most elected officials aren't going to be people that I really care about, with few exceptions. But this was actually our Lafayette Reads Together book this year through the public library, so I got a free copy through my library for this book. Yeah, like there's her with Obama. This is a woman in politics to me. Let me know if this doesn't count. Let me know if it has to be an elected official. The next one that I've completed was for a rural setting. And this year I read Split Tooth by Tanya Tagaq, which is set in non-metropolitan region Canada. She is a Canadian Inuit throat singer. And this was a really cool book. If you haven't read this book yet, I would highly recommend it. It has poems in it. Apparently the audiobook's really good and has like her doing throat singing in it. So it's hard to know which one to pick, because both of them seem like they have, either modality seems like it has unique positive aspects. Like you wouldn't get the illustrations in an audiobook, but you don't get the throat singing whenever you read the physical copy, but I also love this cover. The next one that I've completed, almost completed, I have about 100 pages left, is reading a book with a cover designed by a woman. And this is one of my Read Caribbean picks, is Polar Vortex by Shani Mootoo. And the cool, very iconic IMO cover design is by Ingrid Paulson. So this counts for a cover design by a woman. The next one I've completed by a trans author. I read Detransition Baby by Torrey Peters this year, like everyone else. And like everyone else, I'm going to say it's amazing. It's so good. It's so good. It's so, such a relief to read a book by a queer author that's like actually being marketed, that's funny, that doesn't have like a sterilized view of like what queer people should be, what queer family should look like. Love it. Read it. The next one that I currently have in progress is nonfiction focused on social justice. This one was like, I may have like already met this one this year in another book, but it's hard for me whenever, you know, like maybe something like On Juneteenth, which I read and liked this year, might be considered by some to be about social justice, but I don't want to just like say any book by, you know, like a Black author talking about being Black is definitely about social justice. Like even, you know, just sharing your experiences can just be about sharing your experiences and not be like for a bigger cause. Like I think that's that might be, I don't want to put advocacy on someone who's not trying to be an advocate with their current work. But I'm currently reading Biting the Clouds by Fiona Foley, which is also a book from Australia that was put on my radar by Jaclyn from Reading Women, but also from Bookstagram and BookTube. Jaclyn is Australian, but she was living next door to me in Texas for a while, and she has, I think, the best Australian recommendations. I really have like a couple of friends from Australia who give fabulous recommendations, and whenever I'm not all the way up to date on new releases, that they can fill me in. But this is a nonfiction about the effects of legislation on an Aboriginal Opium Act. I put it down like a couple months ago whenever I had a lot going on, and didn't feel like I was investing enough brain power into like reading nonfiction and actually being able to remember what I read, but I will be picking that one up again soon. And then the last one that I have in progress that's almost completed is a short story collection by a Caribbean author. And for this one, I'm actually reading an anthology, a short story anthology called New Worlds, Old Ways, but it's edited by Karen Lord. So I'm going to count this as part of the Reading Women Challenge, even though there's male and female authors in the collection, because it was edited by a woman. And this is a Caribbean speculative fiction anthology, and I'm really liking it so far. I'm about 80% through, and it's good, so recommend that one as well. The challenges that I haven't completed yet are long-listed for the JCB prize, which is an Indian literary prize, and I have a burning on hold at the library right now, so I will be completing that one. Author from Eastern Europe, I have currently checked out Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead, I think is what it's called. So I will be reading that. About incarceration. I have Incarcerated Mothers, which is mostly Canadian essays, but an international collection about experiences of mothers in incarceration. Last year I read Our Prisons Obsolete by Angela Davis, and I definitely recommend that one, but I didn't read it this year, so it doesn't count. reread a favorite. I don't know what I'm gonna do for this one. Maybe I won't do this one because I don't really reread books. I have so many books left to read. Next one by a neurodivergent author. I may have read a book by a neurodivergent author this year, but I didn't read any books that were about autism or that featured a main character that was autistic. So I don't know on this one. If you have any recommendations for me, definitely leave those below, because I don't know yet what I'm going to read for this one. The next one is crime novel or thriller in translation. I'm amazed that I haven't completed this one this year, but I will be completing. I started this one as a buddy read with my friend Alicia. We both fell off. We both fully fell off the buddy read that we had started together. So hopefully we pick back up on it this year. I definitely want to read this one, and everyone that I've seen who's read this loves it. So hope to read that. Poetry collection by a Black woman. I haven't read any poetry this year, I don't think. I will probably try to look for a local author at the library. But if you have any recommendations for any poetry collections by Black women that you love, definitely leave those below. Next one is a Muslim middle grade novel. I don't really read middle grade. I've read a lot of books this year by Muslim authors, but I don't really read middle grade. I don't know what I'm going to do for this one. If I'm going to pass just because I don't read middle grade, but if there is one that you like really, really love and think that I'll love, leave it below. Arab author in translation. Amazed that I haven't completed this one yet. I've read from Arab authors this year, but they just wrote in English, so not in translation. Fantasy novel by an Asian author. Haven't read any fantasy this year. I'm interested in reading that novella series by Niveau, and I have the first book saved on Scribd. The Empress of Salt and Fortune is maybe what it's called. That's probably what I'm going to read for this, and those look really cool, so I'll probably read that whole series. And that's it. There's 4 bonus authors that I may read from as well, but I think I'm doing pretty well for someone who has not been looking at the challenge list to have read or have in progress 14 out of 24. I'm not too bummed out about that. So please, if you have any recommendations, especially for the ones I haven't read, but even ones that I had already marked off, if you have any more recommendations in those categories, let me know. I love to read women. Thank you, Daisy. But go ahead, subscribe, comment, let me know why Daisy's so upset, and I'll see you next time. Bye.